Who struck gold in the transfer portal? Welcome into the voice of college football, breaking down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis right here. We took our look at the Big Ten. Please check out the video of quarterback additions in the Big Ten through the transfer process. We now look at the SEC and start with the Auburn Tigers. Hugh Freeze, 2 seasons, 11 wins and 14 losses is not good enough. He's on the hot seat. He needs better quarterback play. And Peyton Thorne from Michigan State, another transfer, was not the answer in 2022 or 3. Now Jackson Arnold is the next most likely Auburn starting quarterback to save Hugh Freeze's job. Jackson Arnold arrived in Norman, Oklahoma as a blue chip quarterbacking prospect. He delivered a prolific bowl game, although 3 interceptions against Arizona in a loss the previous season to close out 2023, but racked up yardage and points in that game, and he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Dillon Gabriel. Big debut against Temple with 4 touchdown passes, and then it went all downhill from there as the offensive line underperformed and a slew of wide receiver injuries, unlike anything we've seen. Benched against Tennessee when the offense was completely non-existent with an interception. He looked lost in those games against the likes of Houston, Tulane, and Tennessee. Came back a few weeks later after he got a break to take it in on the sideline and learn his craft a little bit more, and played better down the stretch. Final numbers, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks for Oklahoma, and he's definitely a running threat as well, as you can see right there. Ashton Daniels is a true dual threat quarterback. He's been the starting quarterback for the Stanford Cardinal for the past 2 seasons. You see 12 interceptions against 10 touchdowns this past season, but man, he's a running threat. Almost 700 yards rushing this past season. He's got 9 rushing touchdowns in his career with the Cardinal. He's going to battle Jackson Arnold for the starting job at Auburn. All eyes on Gainesville and specifically DJ Lagway after what he showed us in his freshman season. He'll be leading the Gators after that 8-5 finish with 4 consecutive wins. But how many quarterbacks finish a complete season? Backup is important. Harrison Bailey was a highly recruited guy himself, going to Tennessee initially. Also UNLV, last 2 seasons at Louisville, threw 33 passes with the Cardinals this past season, 3 touchdowns and no picks. Harrison Bailey headed to Florida to back up DJ Lagway. The Brock Vandagriff experiment at Kentucky definitely did not work. Gavin Wimsatt, the Rutgers transfer, who was the starting quarterback there, he could not fill in capably. Now we go to the much-traveled Zach Calzada, formerly at Texas A&M. His shining moment was, of course, the upset of number 1 Alabama back in 2021. Calzada that season, 56% completion percentage, almost 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 9 picks. But that was a long time ago. Calzada goes to Kentucky to battle for the starting position. Garrett Nussmeier's back as the starting quarterback at LSU after an up-and-down 2024 en route to a 9-4 season. You see his stats right there. Michael Van Buren, good insurance coming in from Mississippi State. Checked him out most notably against Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, 17 of 32 passing, 280 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks against the Rebels in that one. For the season, Van Buren under 55%, 11 touchdowns, 7 picks, but again, overmatched from week to week in the SEC, playing for the only winless team in the conference at Mississippi State. Jackson Dart's off to the NFL, of course, and his stock is rising as we head toward April to be replaced most likely by Austin Simmons, who had his most meaningful work for the Rebels in 2024. When Dart was knocked out of the game early against Georgia, it was Simmons, down 7-0, who led a touchdown march, hitting 5 of 6 against the Bulldogs for 64 yards. The Rebels and Lane Kiffin get some insurance with Pierce Clarkson coming into the program by way of Louisville, has only thrown a handful of passes for the Cardinals. We talked about Michael Van Buren's departure from Starkville to Death Valley at LSU. That completely paves the way for Luke Kromenhoek to take over as the starting quarterback in Jeff Lebby's 2nd season in Starkville. At Florida State, a rough ride for everybody last season. Kromenhoek got his most work against the Florida Gators, 15 of 28 for $140, threw 3 touchdowns the week prior against Charleston Southern. sacked all over the place, as was every Florida State quarterback. Croman Hoke, a much highly regarded recruit coming out of high school, gets this shot to take over for Mississippi State. Brady Cook led Mizzou football to 22 wins in 27 games the past 2 years, and really when the Tigers had their roughest outings this past season, it was because Cook missed the game or was out due to injury. Well, he moves on, and one of the more publicized transfer portal additions during this offseason was, of course, Bo Pribula, who opted out of Penn State's college football playoff race to enter the transfer portal, picked up by Mizzou. And Pribula, of course, the backup to Drew Aller at Penn State, but he played meaningful minutes against big opponents in big situations because of his running threat. He was given regular packages to play 10 to 15 plays per game, and you see his numbers there. He will be the number one guy, though, for Eli Drinkwitz in Columbia in 2025. But if we could nail down one transfer quarterback addition that should prove to be the most meaningful, the most impactful in the SEC this season, let's, of course, go back 1 year to the source, also being Pullman, Washington State. Cam Ward going to Miami and becoming the best quarterback in college football this past season and a Heisman finalist. This time, the Cougars produce John Mateer, who goes to Oklahoma to replace, of course, Jackson Arnold going to the Plains at Auburn. Of course, Dylan Gabriel played at Oklahoma after his transfer and then moving on to Oregon. So Oklahoma has been a place of destination and transition for big-time college transfers at quarterback. He accounted for 44 touchdowns this past season, 29 throwing against 7 interceptions, 15 rushing touchdowns for John Mateer, over 800 yards on the ground at 68 yards per game. Probably the best defense John Mateer faced in 2024 would have been Boise State. 26 of 37, 327 through the air, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Texas Tech, another power conference defense, only 9 of 19 in a win, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Oregon State as well, 17 of 23 in that game with a couple touchdowns. Certainly the SEC defenses will present more of a challenge than the likes of San Jose State, Fresno State, Hawaii, Utah State, and the like. After a big 2024 season, going from 5 wins to 9, South Carolina in the capable hands of Lenoris Sellers, a probable Heisman candidate this fall. Air Noland, though, is a big pickup from Ohio State, and he could be groomed to be Sellers' replacement in 2026. Air Noland, the lefty, comes from Columbus to Columbia. In Mike Elko's first season at Texas A&M, it was Marcel Reed who stole the job from Connor Weigman in a comeback win against LSU. Weigman off to Houston. Marcel Reed is the guy, but needing a capable backup, Elko goes to get Jacob Zeno, who's much traveled, first at Baylor, where he barely played. UAB, starter in 2023, 73.6% completion percentage, 20 touchdowns and 9 picks, and that was his most significant contribution. Just played 4 games this past season in 2024, 6 TDs and 5 picks for Jacob Zeno. He'll do a little bit of damage on the ground with 6 rushing touchdowns career. We will deliver SEC quarterback rankings post-spring. In the meantime, leave your comments and questions down below. Keep in mind, our daily show, Monday through Friday, the college football show, comes your way Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then.